I think Bitcoin is the future. And it is going back to this rules-based system where you have absolute certainty. You're absolutely certain of the upper limit of Bitcoin. There's 21 million. That's it. And that should be enough to, rebase the entire world's economy on. So that's 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. And it's just a mathematical formula, and it does not change over time. And that's it. So the way I look at it is this is a ruler. It's a ruler by which you measure every other thing, just like you measure water in liters and milliliters, and you measure distance in kilometers or miles if you're American. There has to be a unit to measure monetary value, and that is Bitcoin. Yeah, like everything that's happening in the world today really just shows nothing matters except for Bitcoin. That's the only thing that matters, and everything else should be readjusted to be priced in terms of Bitcoin.
Samson Moe makes a compelling opening statement. There is a great deal of uncertainty in the globe right now. Geopolitical tensions are increasing, domestic fiscal policies appear to be spiraling out of control, and global markets are in upheaval. There are inconsistencies and inefficiencies everywhere you turn. Once important figures like interest rates, trade tariffs, and inflation rates have devolved into manipulative, arbitrary, and ultimately useless figures. Samson makes the argument that these data are based on untrustworthy premises. Moe thinks it's more crucial than ever to address the important questions in these kinds of times. What do these data actually mean? What are they actually attached to? And why do they even matter? Bitcoin enters the picture at this point and provides a way out of the mess. Take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more content on Bitcoin and the digital asset space.
The real litmus test is buying. The legislation is kind of the setup to get to the point of buying. And it takes time. Like, even after legislation is passed, I would assume there are more procedural things like, is it self-custodied? How is that set up? Is it with a custodian? There is an order of operations to get to the stage at which you're buying. But I think they have to accelerate that. And, there are lots of really well qualified Bitcoiners and companies in the US that are positioned to help with that. But the race is on. Either it's going to happen first at the state level, or it will happen first at the federal level, or another country is going to step in and start buying. But the tariff situation and also the weakness in demand for US treasuries, I think, will start to funnel money from other countries into Bitcoin. Because if you think about everything on a very high level, where are you going to park your capital? Are you going to put it in real estate? And it certainly doesn't help that Besant is saying things like, Chinese stocks can be removed from the stock exchanges. There is rumblings of eminent domain, like seizing assets. All of these things will spook other sovereign nations to do anything with US assets, right? Whether it's a US-based ETF, or if it's just equities, or if it's treasuries or real estate. And when you ask yourself that question, what is the answer? Where do you go? It is just Bitcoin. There is really nothing else that is fully decentralized, permissionless, and without any interested party controlling it. So I see that we're going to see a massive flight of capital into Bitcoin, and you compound that with the tariffs and the trade war and fear of the Chinese yen devaluing, and that just makes it even more likely and faster that capital will flow into Bitcoin.
What's your take, your framework, on how you're thinking through all of this macro noise that's happening right now?
Well, you pretty much outlined it. This is a time of massive uncertainty, and it's a time at which people should be questioning, what do these numbers mean and why do they even matter? So tariffs on China are at 145. I saw there's a correction, it's actually 125. Who knows? Retaliatory tariffs from China are at 83, 90. Does it matter? Not really. A 90-day pause. Well, why 90? Why not 180? Why not 365, right? These are all arbitrary numbers. CPI at 2.4, arbitrary number, not the other arbitrary number of 2.5, right? So I think in times like this, you have to really think about why Bitcoin matters. And I'm a Bitcoin maxi, and I think Bitcoin is the future. And it is going back to this rules-based system where you have absolute certainty. You're absolutely certain of the upper limit of Bitcoin. There's 21 million. That's it. And that should be enough to, rebase the entire world's economy on. So that's 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. And it's just a mathematical formula, and it does not change over time. And that's it. So the way I look at it is this is a ruler. And it's a ruler by which you measure every other thing, just like you measure water in liters and milliliters, and you measure distance in kilometers or miles if you're American. There has to be a unit to measure monetary value, and that is Bitcoin. And this is why I think we will be seeing hyper-Bitcoinization, and we'll see everything being priced in terms of Bitcoin or Satoshis. So yeah, like everything that's happening in the world today really just shows nothing matters except for Bitcoin. That's the only thing that matters, and everything else should be readjusted to be priced in terms of Bitcoin.
The fact that Bitcoin is still below $100,000 in spite of everything is confusing to Samson Moe. Like Bitwise's CIO Matt Haugen, he is frustrated, asking, "We should already be at $200,000, so why aren't we?" Fear, market manipulation, and a short-term mindset that drives prices, according to Moe, are the causes. There are currently about 2 million Bitcoins on exchanges, which permits price repression. Long-term holders, meanwhile, keep discreetly hoarding and holding on to their currency, increasing the strain. Upon the eventual release of that pressure, according to Moe, it will result in a huge rise. He brings to mind the 2017 rise, when, in spite of the lack of global events at the time, the price of Bitcoin surged 17 times. Such a shift is not only plausible, but also likely given the current state of global uncertainty. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest videos. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Now let's dive back into the interview.
From my perspective, we've been decoupling for the last 16 years, right? You don't go from zero to, whatever we at now, like 70, 80,000 without decoupling from the system. And I think the recent decoupling where equities went down and we stayed steady is a very pertinent indicator that people should be paying a lot of attention to. Because when we are aligned with stocks and we move with stocks, people kind of assume Bitcoin is a tech stock, right? But it is not. It is the ruler by which you measure everything else. There are only 21 million coins. And I don't think people really understand that that level of scarcity means there are no undos. There's no take backsies. Once the Bitcoin is gone, it is gone. Once it's off market into the hands of a seller with no intent to sell, that's it. There is no more. You can't make more. You can make an altcoin, but you can't make more Bitcoin, right? So I think you're going to see Sailor and MicroStrategy, or Strategy now, keep buying, taking coins off the market. They've already took double the amount of mined coins off this year. We're already seeing the public mining companies stop selling and just borrow and get more Bitcoin. You're seeing GameStop making their foray into this. And as we talked about before, states, nation states, they are all starting to get ready to buy. And most of the Bitcoin supply has been mined already. So there's like maybe 1 million coins left to be mined for the next 100 odd years. So where are we going to get more coins? As soon as all of that buy pressure culminates, you're going to see the price move. You're going to see everything massively decouple. Bitcoin's going to take off like a rocket ship. And that's the thesis behind the Omega candle, right? We're just going to see a supply shock that triggers a massive green candle up. And that's going to trigger more green candles, because FOMO is really what drives everything, right? Nobody thinks ahead. Nobody does the research. Nobody understands it. But when it goes up and it decouples, people pay attention and they allocate. And that's it. There are probably a number of countries that are quietly accumulating, and we see little bits and pieces here and there, and a lot of times it's accidental that it's revealed. Like Bhutan was a secret until they got caught up in, I think, the Celsius filings, and it was revealed that they were holding Bitcoin, and then they kind of came out publicly and said, we're mining Bitcoin with excess energy, and they published some of their balances. So it's almost like the incentive is for countries to quietly accumulate until they can't. But then you also have cases like the US where they're making a big proclamation that we are going to go into Bitcoin in a big way. And I think that's actually more likely because it's difficult for countries to hide things from the public, or at least ideally it shouldn't be the case, because the governments need to be accountable to the people. And if they're doing things in secret, that's not really the ideal situation. So I think going forward, you'll see more proclamations like we are implementing a strategic reserve. We're going to be buying Bitcoin. We're going to be mining Bitcoin. And that's sort of where we come in as Gen 3. It's our mission to work with governments to implement Bitcoin strategies for the sake of world prosperity. And I think there are many pitfalls that governments can go into when they're trying to figure out what they want to do with Bitcoin, right? There are people out there trying to conflate Bitcoin and crypto. And I know some of your audience is crypto, but I think you have to segment the market. There's Bitcoin, there's crypto, and then stable coins. So there are distinct pockets of different types of things that you can invest in. And you need to really be able to distinguish between the different things. So when Trump was trying to start the U.S. on the path of strategic crypto adoption, there was talk of, is it a strategic Bitcoin reserve or a strategic crypto reserve? And there was a time at which it looked like they wanted to stick a bunch of other crypto in there, like American-made cryptos. And I think that really opens the door to real degeneracy, right? Like if you start adding every single crypto or selected ones, you're kind of picking winners and losers. And where's the line cut off? Is it meme coins too or not? Because what is the difference really between an old meme coin like Doge that is relatively decentralized and still based off proof of work versus something like the newer dog coins? I don't even know the names now, but that can get really bad really quickly. So I guess what we try to do is steer governments to just focus on Bitcoin. If you want to take a libertarian leaning and say everything's okay, then just let everything else proliferate. But focus your messaging, focus your effort, focus your attention on Bitcoin.
Samson Moe offers a wake-up call in addition to a price prediction. He is not the only one who sincerely thinks that Bitcoin ought to be worth $200,000. Macroeconomic and financial experts hold the same opinion. It is not because Bitcoin is worthless or useless that it is still trading below $100,000, rather. It is because of short-term market dynamics, fear, and uncertainty that let price suppression to continue. There are still around 2 million Bitcoins on controlled exchanges, giving the appearance of liquidity, but their purpose is to influence short-term sentiment, while long-term holders, those who really get the value of Bitcoin, keep adding to their holdings without selling. They are tightening the spring in the process. And history demonstrates the consequences of the spring's uncoiling. Samson also discusses the function of nation-states, which is arguably more significant. He thinks that a lot of governments are already purchasing Bitcoin covertly in order to benefit from this window of low prices before the rest of the world notices. As a result of unrelated financial reports, it was discovered that nations such as Bhutan were mining and keeping Bitcoin by accident. These covert accumulations will probably continue until they can no longer be concealed, at which point there may be a surge of public announcements, such as governments formally joining the Bitcoin space, declaring strategic reserves, starting national mining initiatives, or incorporating Bitcoin into monetary policy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for more valuable content, and as always, happy investing.